are my thoughts on this book. I have thoughts. They'll be coming shortly. Hi guys, it's April, and I'm going to do this review the same way I do all of my other reviews. I'm going to have the non-spoilery section up front, followed by the spoiled filled dumped afterwards, in case you are interested in knowing more things, or you don't want to know more things. You can make a choice. It's always yours. I will let you know I received an advance reader copy of This Is Not a Ghost Story by Andrea Ports for a free and honest review, and that in no way has swayed my opinion on this book, but I thought I'd tell you up front. So this is the story of Daffodil, who gets off of the train on her way to college and decides to take a summer job house sitting for a rich couple. The thing about this house is it's currently under construction, the owners aren't going to be there, and they need someone to manage the workers. As Daffodil is there and watching the house, some very weird and bizarre things start to happen. She gets this weird feeling about the place, and things might not be as they seem. Now, this story is told from Daffodil's perspective. She's writing as if she's talking to you, and in some cases, that's really nice because you get to know Daffodil and some of the things that are going on with her internally. You start to realize that she has gone through something very traumatic and she's trying to process that. But at the same time, there are moments because of this perspective that it takes you out of the story because the believability starts to drop, because she's got this perky, sassy personality that kind of pulls you out of this moody, creepy atmosphere that I'm assuming was trying to be created in this house. There are some very creepy moments for sure. There's some mind-bending moments as well. But because of how Daffodil is telling the story and the perspective she's coming from, I feel like that diminishes the horror aspect of this book a little bit. She was almost too upbeat and sarcastic and all over the place about the whole event, especially when it seemed at times she was dealing with a lot of darker mental things. And a lot of that stuff was just mentioned casually in passing that would be very concerning if it came out of anybody's mouth. But here it's played so down that it doesn't feel like it's of any consequence. And it's a little bit concerning, especially given some of the things she starts to talk about. I will put out a warning that if you are triggered by suicidal thoughts, this probably isn't the book for you. There's a point in this book where things got so weird and you ended up getting no explanation that the ending was just there. And it made sense and things fell into place, but then it also opened up a whole bunch of other questions. It was just like, this is kind of what's happening. Moving on. We never really got a clear understanding of why things happened. We almost got the half story because we got the why it was for her, but we didn't get the why of everything else. I don't want to go into spoilers here, but there was things happening. We sort of know why she was pulled into things, but we didn't ever really get a clear answer for why they were happening. And I think that is what left me there about kind of just meh about the story. I will admit that because of a lot of Daffodil's perspectives, I relate to her on a lot of her anxiety things and the fact that she is from the Lincoln, Nebraska area. Love that. But I struggled with a lot of other aspects of her, and you can definitely tell she was a teenager and she had a lot of selfish tendencies, and I think that's what really started to pull me out of the story. I mean, overall, it was an interesting read, but I think because I was so thrown off by some of the things that Daffodil was saying and how she was telling the story, that when the ending came and there was supposed to be this kind of thing that was revealed, I was just kind of, okay. So if you are looking for a read that is a little bit more on the trippy side of horror and has a lot of teenager influence and a lot of teenage mentality, you will probably like this book. Overall, it was okay for me. I'm not the most excited about it, and it's probably not something I will pick up again. So take that for whatever you want it to mean. Okay, several things of note. First off, love the fact that Daffodil was a Nebraskan and we got a lot of Nebraska references thrown into it. But you can definitely tell that the author has not lived here for a while. There was references to the state fair in Lincoln, which hasn't been here for a good chunk of time, even before the world burning. But I guess I can't really fault them for that if they didn't flip back. It's just, is this supposed to be a modern book? Is it supposed to be, and it's only something that someone who lives in Nebraska would notice. So it's really not that big a deal. I think my biggest issue started with Daffodil. I kind of alluded to the fact that Daffodil would casually mention suicidal thoughts about stepping in front of a bus and various other things. But the way she said it, the casualness in which it was just kind of thrown in there, made me feel extremely uncomfortable. I know she was dealing with a lot of things, but the fact was, as she's talking, as she's verbally processing to the audience, you never really get a feel for that darkness. You just have these dark statements. I don't know if that's what the author was trying to do. It did throw me for a loop because I didn't like it, because we're talking about some very, very serious things, but she herself almost doesn't take it seriously. And she just casually, in very selfish ways, mentions various different things about having money and all of that kind of stuff. I get that supposedly her and her grandma were very tight on money, but it never sounded like she was really wanting for anything. Not that we got a huge part of her background. The only part of her background that we got was all around Xander. Xander, who she just started high school, fell in love with, and then who selfishly killed them, which, big plot twist, she's dead. Spoiler, sorry. And then when we meet Xander at the end, who's like, finally, we get to see each other again. You figured things out. You were lost, and that's why you were dealing with this whole house thing, which, okay, but what was going on with the house? She's just casually just kind of like, cool, now we can just spend forever together. Even though it was his fault that they died. Sometimes I really, really don't understand teenage love. Maybe because I never fully experienced any of those like raging emotions in any way. But it just, I get that we were trying to do this like Sixth Sense kind of thing with the reveal of the fact that she was dead. I was kind of thinking that, well, at least by the middle, when we were starting to get some of these really weird, twisted things happening, and it would flip back and forth. And then I understood some of Daffodil's personality quirks, like her anxiety and the fact that these workers were there, but she tried to like hermit herself because she's like, I don't know how to interact with these people. I don't understand. I'm just... Which, that's exactly how I was when we were finishing the basement. I'm like, I'm just gonna be working up here. Hopefully nobody needs me because I don't people. So I got that. But every other aspect of her, I couldn't get around. And ultimately, that's what pulled me back from really enjoying this, because, I mean, there were moments, there were perfect setups, but because of Daffodil's point of view, that creep, that moodiness, that suspense, it was just teenage sassed all over, and I didn't care for it. That's all I have to say. So tell me down below your thoughts on this read. I'm just gonna kind of like end this one here. And if you want to see any more content like this, subscribe down below, and I heart your beautiful faces. Bye.